My straight best friend asked me to teach her how to kiss, which was ridiculous enough. The truly dangerous part was that, 3 weeks later, she stood in my kitchen and asked me to do it again. At 31, I thought I had developed a reasonably sophisticated system for avoiding romantic disasters. It had 2 categories: women I might date, women I absolutely, categorically, under no circumstances would date. The first category included women who flirted with me at gallery openings, women my friends insisted I would love, women who smiled at me over coffee, and occasionally women from dating apps whose profiles contained enough actual sentences to suggest they possessed personalities. The second category included married women, co-workers, anyone who described all of her exes as narcissists, and my best friend, Josephine Bennett. Josie had been in that category for 6 years. Not because she was unattractive. That would have been considerably easier. Josie was 30, 5'7" when she wasn't wearing the boots that made her claim 5'9". With dark blonde hair she usually twisted into an untidy knot during workdays, and gray-blue eyes that became almost offensively bright when she was pleased with herself. She was a veterinarian at a small animal hospital across town. She could calmly remove a fish hook from a Labrador's tongue while reassuring a sobbing owner, then call me afterward because she'd accidentally ordered 12 pounds of basmati rice instead of 12 ounces and wanted to know whether rice expired. She was also straight. Not theoretically straight. Not straight except for that one summer straight. Straight in the completely ordinary sense that she had dated men for as long as I'd known her, had liked some of them very much, had loved at least one, and had never once suggested that women belonged anywhere in her romantic imagination. I was a lesbian. This arrangement had always been extremely convenient. We met when I was 25 and she was 24, because a mutual friend invited both of us to a housewarming party where the host had forgotten to buy a corkscrew. I had opened a bottle of wine with a key and an amount of confidence entirely unsupported by experience. Josie watched me nearly drive the key through my hand and said, "You're either resourceful or deeply stupid. Those aren't mutually exclusive." She laughed, and 6 years later, she still quoted that sentence whenever I attempted home repairs. We became friends quickly, without ever making a ceremony of it. By the end of our first year, she had a spare key to my apartment, because I traveled occasionally for work and needed somebody to water the plants I consistently forgot I owned. By the second, I was her emergency contact, because her parents lived 4 states away and, according to Josie, her older brother would respond to an emergency by creating a spreadsheet. Every Wednesday, unless one of us was working late, we ate dinner at my place. Sometimes I cooked. Usually we ordered food. We had one ugly yellow ceramic mug in my kitchen that neither of us remembered buying. It had a crooked painted sunflower on the side and a handle so small no adult hand could comfortably use it. Years earlier, after I'd spent 20 minutes pretending a woman I was dating wasn't obviously losing interest, Josie had pushed that mug across the table and said, "Yellow mug." What? If this is on the table, you don't get comforting lies. You get the thing I actually think. I don't remember agreeing to this. You just did. The yellow mug rule became permanent. If either of us invoked it, the other had to tell the truth. Not cruelty disguised as honesty, not unsolicited criticism. Just the answer we would give if protecting each other's feelings wasn't the immediate priority. It had ended 2 of my relationships approximately 3 weeks earlier than I would otherwise have allowed them to die. It had also once forced Josie to admit she hated the expensive haircut she'd spent 4 days defending. That Wednesday in October, the yellow mug was drying beside the sink when Josie arrived at my apartment with Thai takeout and the expression she usually wore before saying something I was going to regret hearing. I noticed it immediately. I worked as a UX researcher, which was a job that mostly involved observing what people did while they insisted they were doing something else. This made me professionally unbearable around friends. "You have a face," I said. "I always have a face. A specific face." She kicked off her boots by the door. "Don't research me." "I don't need to. You're carrying noodles like they're evidence. Can we eat first?" "No." "Mira." "Josephine." She narrowed her eyes. I smiled. She pointed at me with the paper bag. "You are why people lie in usability studies. And yet you keep giving me a key." She put the food down, went directly to the cabinet, and reached for the yellow mug. That stopped me. "Absolutely not." "I haven't said anything." "You touched the mug." "It's a mug." "It's our legally binding truth mug." She brought it to the table. "Sit." "No." "Mira, whatever you're about to ask me, the answer is no." "You don't know the question." "Your tone has already convicted it." Josie sat, folded her hands around the ridiculous little mug, and stared at it for several seconds. Her confidence was one of the things I liked most about her. She could walk into a room full of angry pet owners, stress technicians, and 3 barking dogs and somehow become the calmest person there. Seeing her nervous made me nervous. Finally, she said, "Do you think I'm a bad kisser?" I waited. Then I waited a little longer in case the real question arrived. It did not. "Yellow mug," she reminded me. "I have no data." "You've seen me kiss people." "Not in a way that would allow peer review." She groaned. "I'm serious." "So am I. Also, why are we discussing this?" She rubbed her thumb over the crooked sunflower. "I had drinks with Lucas on Monday." Lucas was the man she'd dated for almost 2 years before they broke up that spring. I had liked him. That was inconvenient now, because I wanted to assign blame preemptively. And we were returning some stuff. Very romantic. It wasn't romantic. We were actually getting along. Even more suspicious. "Mira." "Sorry." She hesitated. "He said something." I sat opposite her. "What?" Josie took a breath. "We were talking about dating again. Not each other, other people. And he made this joke about how whoever I date next will need to teach me to stop kissing like I'm waiting for a bus." My amusement disappeared. He said what? He wasn't trying to be horrible. That sentence arrived fully horrible. Intent is irrelevant. He laughed afterward. "Excellent. That fixes it." "I'm not asking you to hate Lucas." "I can multitask." She pushed hair behind one ear. "It got in my head." That part I understood. Cruel remarks were efficient little parasites. Most died on contact. One found exactly the right insecurity and moved in permanently. I softened. "Josie, one man's post-breakup review doesn't establish an industry standard." "I know that intellectually." "And every other way?" She winced. "I've been thinking about every person I've ever kissed." "Healthy." "Shut up." "Yellow mug." "That's not how yellow mug works." "It should be." She reached for a spring roll and didn't eat it. Then she said, "I have another date Friday." "With?" "Adrian." I remembered him. Emergency management consultant, 32, nice smile. Had met Josie at a charity vaccination clinic. She had already gone out with him twice and had come home sounding cautiously interested rather than aggressively optimistic, which I considered promising. "You like him." "I might." And Lucas has now convinced you that you kiss like public transportation. Exactly. Josie, I know it's stupid. It is. Helpful. But being bothered by it isn't stupid. She finally took a bite. We ate for a few minutes. I thought the conversation had ended. I should have known better. Josie put down her fork. You could tell me. I frowned. Tell you what? What I'm doing wrong. How? Her gaze held mine. It took approximately 3 seconds for the answer to become obvious. No. She didn't move. No, I repeated. Mira. No, absolutely not. You didn't even let me explain. You don't need to explain. There is no version of what you're about to suggest that becomes less insane after explanation. It's not insane. You want me to kiss you. Her cheeks turned pink. That should not have been interesting. It was. I immediately placed the observation into a locked mental drawer. For educational purposes, she said. I laughed so hard I almost choked. Do not say educational purposes. Why? Because it makes this worse. I'm serious. So am I. You actually date women. Thank you for remembering. You pay attention to this stuff. To kissing? Yes. I'm pretty sure straight women also pay attention to kissing. Apparently, I missed orientation. Ask another straight woman. That would be weird. I stared at her. She stared back. Then, with impressive sincerity, she said, different weird. I put both hands flat on the table. You want your lesbian best friend to conduct quality control before your date with a man. When you say it like that, there's no flattering way to say it. You've kissed friends before. Queer friends, under circumstances where everybody understood what category everybody else lived in. I understand categories. You are demonstrating the opposite. She tried not to smile. That made me smile, which annoyed me. Mira, please. No. What if you don't kiss me? What if I kiss you and you just tell me what's terrible? That is still kissing. Technically, you're receiving. Please never use that sentence again. She covered her face. I laughed. For 5 minutes we argued about it. Then 10. She kept presenting increasingly absurd logistical proposals. 1 kiss, maximum 10 seconds. No hands, no tongue, no romantic lighting. I informed her that my overhead kitchen light had never been accused of romance. She suggested standing. I asked whether she planned to submit a written evaluation afterward. She threatened to make one. Eventually, the humor ran out and left us facing the actual request. Josie looked down at the yellow mug. I trust you. That was the sentence that got me. Not because it was romantic. It wasn't. It was worse. It was true. She trusted me not to embarrass her, not to misread her, not to turn a strange, vulnerable request into leverage. For 6 years, I'd been safe to her, partly because I had never treated her straightness as negotiable. I didn't want to become the lesbian friend who heard uncertainty and immediately saw opportunity. You're allowed to be nervous about Friday, I said, but I don't think you need fixing. I know. Do you? She considered it. Mostly. Good. She touched the mug. Yellow mug. Oh, come on! Would you actually tell me if I was doing something awkward? If we did this? Yes. I sighed. Yes. And you wouldn't make it weird? It's already weird. You know what I mean. I did. I leaned back in my chair. One kiss. Her eyebrows lifted. Really? Don't make me reconsider. She straightened immediately. Okay. Boundaries. Right. This doesn't mean anything. Obviously. We stop the second either person feels uncomfortable. Obviously. No discussing it with mutual friends. Obviously. No feedback spreadsheet. She hesitated. Josie, fine. And if this ruins Wednesday dinner, I'm billing Lucas. Agreed. We carried our containers to the kitchen because, apparently, cleaning first was the reasonable thing to do before kissing your straight best friend. I rinsed 2 plates while hyper-aware of the woman standing 3 feet behind me. That was new. I had been in pajamas around Josie. I had shared hotel rooms with her on group trips. I'd helped zip dresses, untangle necklaces, move furniture, survive flu, and once extract a contact lens she had somehow folded beneath her eyelid. Physical proximity had never required management. Now, I could hear her breathing. I dried my hands. This is still a terrible idea. I know. Last chance. For you or me? Yes. She laughed nervously. We stood near the end of my kitchen counter, facing each other. Josie tucked her hands behind her back like a child being inspected for contraband. I pointed at them. What are you doing? You said no hands. I didn't mean you had to stand like you're meeting the principal. Where should I put them? I don't know. Normally people don't ask me this many administrative questions. You're supposed to be teaching. I'm already resigning. That broke the tension enough for both of us to laugh. Then she stepped closer. The laughter stopped. Josie was beautiful. I had always known that. There was nothing revelatory about it. But beauty at a safe distance and beauty 6 inches from your mouth were apparently separate datasets. Her eyes flicked briefly to my lips. Okay, she said. Okay. She kissed me. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Her mouth touched mine, soft and cautious, then disappeared. She immediately stepped back. Well? I pressed my lips together because I was trying not to laugh. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. It's bad. No. You're laughing. Because you kissed me like you were apologizing for interrupting. Lucas was right. Lucas was not right. Then what am I doing? You barely participated. I participated. You filed a request. She shoved my shoulder. Be useful. Fine. Stop trying to perform it correctly. That's vague. You're tense. I am kissing my best friend under fluorescent lighting. Fair. Specific advice. I thought for a moment. Stay. What? The first time, you decided when it ended before it started. Don't. Josie's expression changed slightly. Not dramatically. Just concentration replacing embarrassment. Again? I should have said no. Instead, I said, again. She stepped closer. This time, she didn't rush. Her mouth met mine and remained there. I had intended to stay passive. That lasted perhaps half a second. I adjusted the angle almost instinctively, and Josie followed. Her shoulders loosened. The kiss became softer, warmer, less like an exercise. My hand moved before I remembered our rules, stopping just short of her waist. Josie noticed. Her breath touched my cheek when we separated by barely an inch. Neither of us moved away. That was the problem. The first kiss had been ridiculous, The second was not. She kissed me again. No question, no instruction. And I kissed her back. It was still gentle, still completely ordinary by any objective standard. But 6 years of harmless closeness suddenly had nowhere harmless to go. I knew the taste of the wine she'd had with dinner. I knew the faint citrus scent of the hand cream she kept in every bag she owned. I knew the woman attached to the mouth against mine better than I had known anyone I'd kissed in years. That made it frighteningly easy. I pulled back first. Josie stayed still. Her eyes opened. For one disorienting second, neither of us seemed to remember the premise. Then she gave a tiny laugh. Too quick. Okay. She rubbed both palms against her jeans. Was that better? I stared at her. The question was absurd enough to save us. Yes. How much? I'm not giving you a score. Out of 10? No. Mira. 7. Her jaw dropped. 7? You demanded numbers. You're terrible. I was going to say 8. Too late. She grabbed the yellow mug from the table. Yellow mug. That is abuse of the system. Was it actually okay? I could have lied. The mug was between us. So I said, it was more than okay. Her smile vanished. Not unhappily, just carefully. Right. I hated the way my own pulse reacted to that single word. So, I said, lesson complete. Lesson complete. We finished dinner. She left 40 minutes earlier than usual. The next morning, I convinced myself the strange feeling was temporary. By lunch, I had upgraded the situation to mildly inconvenient. By Friday afternoon, it had become a full internal administrative crisis. I was not secretly in love with Josie. I repeated that several times because it was both true and apparently insufficient. I hadn't spent 6 years waiting for her to discover women. I had dated. Seriously. My longest relationship during our friendship had been with a woman named Hannah, a pediatric architect who owned 12 identical black sweaters and believed vacations should include spreadsheets. We had lasted 18 months. I loved her. We had discussed moving in together. When we broke up, Josie sat on my bathroom floor while I cried and ordered enough pizza for a minor sports team. My life had never been organized around hoping Josie might want me. That was precisely why the kiss unsettled me. I had built a category around her so stable that I had stopped examining anything placed inside it. Josie was beautiful, but unavailable. Josie rested her head on my shoulder during movies, but unavailable. Josie called me first after hard days, but unavailable. Josie once fell asleep against me on a 6-hour train ride with her hand tucked around my arm, but unavailable. Nothing required interpretation because the answer had been assigned in advance. Now my brain was reopening 6 years of files I'd considered closed. I hated it. Friday night, she went out with Adrian. I knew because at 6:30 she sent me a photograph of 2 pairs of earrings laid on her bathroom counter. Gold or silver? I typed silver. She replied, "You always say silver." "Because you always choose the gold after asking me." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Maybe I value the ritual." I stared at that sentence longer than it deserved. At 10:47, she texted, "Home." Normally that meant she would call. She didn't. I put my phone face down. At 11:12, I turned it over again. Nothing. I was not jealous. I was simply noticing a disruption in established communication patterns, which was a perfectly normal behavior for a UX researcher, and an absolutely pathetic behavior for a best friend. She called Saturday morning. "How was it?" I asked, aiming for normal. "Good." Good? "He's nice." "You already knew that." "He remains nice." "Promising." She was silent. I waited. Finally, I asked, "Did he kiss you?" Another silence. "Yes." My stomach did something irritating. "And?" "It was fine." "Fine sounds romantic." "Mira." "What?" "Can I ask you something?" I closed my eyes. "No." "You don't even know what." "We've established that my instincts are excellent." She laughed, then said, "When you kiss somebody, are you thinking about what you're doing?" "Sometimes." "During?" "Depends on the person." "Last Wednesday?" I sat upright. "Josie." "I know, sorry." "You said the date was good." "It was." "Then why are we analyzing Wednesday?" "I don't know." That was the first moment I understood she was genuinely confused. Not flirting, not testing me. Confused. Her voice had lost its usual bounce. I let the sarcasm go. "What happened with Adrian?" "Nothing bad. That's what's weird." "Did you want him to kiss you?" "I thought I did." "And when he did?" "It was nice." "But?" She was quiet. I noticed myself noticing. Meaning? Whether I was staying. The word landed between us. My advice. Stay. I got up and walked to the window. "That's probably just because Lucas made you self-conscious." "Maybe." "You were thinking too hard." "Probably." Neither of us sounded convinced. The following Wednesday, we almost canceled dinner without acknowledging we were almost canceling dinner. At 4, Josie texted, "Still on?" I replied, "Unless you've joined a cult." She wrote, "Depends on parking." Then she arrived with dumplings and behaved completely normally. So did I. We discussed work. Her hospital had acquired an elderly parrot that screamed, "Gary!" whenever anyone touched its feet, despite nobody knowing a Gary. I had spent 2 days interviewing people about a home security app and discovered that 3 separate participants kept passwords taped under their keyboards. Josie sat in her usual place on my couch. I sat in mine. A gap of approximately 18 inches existed between us. Historically, this would have meant nothing. Now I could have measured it with architectural precision. Halfway through a terrible reality show, she reached automatically toward my bowl of popcorn, then stopped before our hands touched. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. "Don't," she said. I didn't say anything. "Your eyebrows did." "My eyebrows are neutral." "They're judgmental." "You've known them 6 years." Unfortunately, we laughed. It helped. Then one contestant on television kissed another. Josie grabbed the remote and fast-forwarded. I turned slowly toward her. Subtle. I hate this show. You chose it. I've grown. In 43 minutes. Remarkable, isn't it? We finished the episode. At the door, she hugged me. We had hugged thousands of times. This one lasted half a second too short. The next 2 weeks were full of tiny betrayals like that. Nothing happened, which meant everything happened. Josie asked me more questions about women I'd dated. Not broad questions, specific ones. Had I always known immediately when I was attracted to someone? Could attraction appear after friendship? Had I ever confused emotional closeness with romantic interest? Had I ever been attracted to men? That last question came while we were grocery shopping, because apparently the produce section was where existential identity crises belonged. "I kissed a boy at 16, I said. "And?" "I mostly wondered whether we were blocking the hallway." "So you knew?" "Eventually." "Immediately?" "Pretty close." She examined a bell pepper like it contained legal guidance. "What if somebody doesn't?" I put a cucumber into the basket. "Then they don't." "That's it?" "What do you want from me?" "I don't know." "Josie." She finally met my eyes. "Nothing. Forget it." I didn't. The following Friday, I went on a date with a woman named Erin, who worked in audio post-production and had a laugh so loud the waiter dropped a spoon the first time he heard it. She was smart, funny, attractive. I liked her. I also caught myself comparing the way she leaned toward me across the table to the way Josie did when she was about to interrupt. I hated myself slightly. Afterward, Erin kissed my cheek outside the restaurant and said she'd like to see me again. I said I would too. I meant it. Mostly. When I got home, Josie had texted 30 minutes earlier. "How was your date?" I typed. "Good." Her reply arrived almost immediately. "Good, good?" I stared, then wrote, "She remains nice." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "You stole my review." I smiled despite myself. She did not ask whether Erin kissed me. I noticed that too. If you'd like the fuller, more intimate, and uncensored version of this story, you can find it on my Patreon page through the link in the description. By the 3rd week after our so-called lesson, I had become exhausted by the amount of meaning we were both trying not to create. I decided the mature solution was to restore normal behavior by force. So on Wednesday, I sat directly beside Josie on the couch. She arrived late from work, dropped her bag by the door, stole my drink without asking, and complained about a dachshund named Napoleon who had eaten half a silicone spatula. Normal. I moved my legs beneath hers while we watched television. Normal. She rested one hand absently on my ankle. Normal. I became aware of every individual finger. Not normal. "How's Adrian?" I asked. Her hand stopped moving. "We're not seeing each other anymore." I turned toward her. "What happened?" "Nothing." "That sounds healthy." "He was nice." "You keep emphasizing this." "Because I don't want you deciding he committed a crime." "I had no plans." "You hated Lucas for 6 days." "Lucas insulted your kissing." "Which led to an event you don't appear grateful for." I nearly dropped my drink. Josie's eyes widened. Then she started laughing. I laughed too because the alternative was death. When we settled, I asked, "Why did you stop seeing Adrian?" She ran her thumb along the seam of my sock. "I wasn't being fair." "How?" "He liked me more every time we went out." "And you didn't?" "I liked him. But I kept waiting to want the next thing." "What next thing?" "A 4th date? A 5th? For him to stay over? For me to imagine him in my life 6 months from now. I nodded. And you didn't. No. That happens. I know. She moved her legs off mine and sat upright. But I kept thinking about why. I felt the direction before she said anything else. My body became perfectly still. Josie rubbed both hands over her face. I don't want this conversation. Then don't have it. I've been not having it for 3 weeks. You're excellent at it. She gave me an annoyed look. I waited. Eventually, she said, Do you remember what you said after we kissed? I said, lesson complete. Before that. You're going to need to narrow it down. When I asked whether it was okay. My mouth went dry. I remember. You said it was more than okay. Because you invoked Yellow Mug. I know. Which legally absolves me. Mira. I stood. Not dramatically. I simply needed distance from the couch. I picked up 2 empty glasses and carried them to the kitchen. Josie followed. You asked me questions, I said. I answered them. I'm not blaming you. I know. I keep thinking about it. I put a glass in the sink. Okay. That's all? What do you want me to say? I don't know. She sounded frustrated. At herself, mostly. I turned. Then maybe don't ask me to solve it. I'm not. You've been interviewing me about sexuality between vegetables. I asked 4 questions. You asked if attraction could sneak up on people while holding organic zucchini. It was eggplant. Not helping. She almost smiled, then didn't. I've dated men my whole life. Yes. I've wanted men. I know. I loved Lucas. I know. And I kissed you twice, and now I'm apparently conducting an independent audit of every romantic instinct I've ever had. I crossed my arms. Those things don't have to cancel each other out. She frowned. I know that logically. Then what's the problem? I don't know where to put you. That sentence hit harder than it should have, maybe because I'd spent 6 years putting her somewhere myself. Don't put me anywhere, I said. Very useful. I'm serious. You don't need a final answer tonight. What if I need something? I didn't respond. Josie stepped closer. Not touching, just closer. Her face had gone very calm, which meant she was terrified. I want to know whether it would feel the same again. There it was, the request I had somehow known was coming. I shook my head. No. Her expression fell. Because you don't want to? That's not why. Then why? Who are you practicing for this time? Silence. Not Adrian, not Lucas, not a hypothetical man. Nothing. Josie's eyes lowered to my mouth, then returned to my face. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I laughed once under my breath, without humor. That's what I thought. Mira. If we do this again, you don't get to call it a lesson tomorrow. I wasn't going to. You don't know that. Neither do you. Exactly. She stepped closer. We can stop. I almost smiled at the absurdity. You came into my kitchen to ask me to kiss you again. I know. And now you're offering not to? I'm trying to give you a choice. You are extremely bad at this. I am learning that. She waited. I could have stopped it. That mattered to me later. There was no misunderstanding, no accidental momentum, no intoxication. Just my best friend standing in my kitchen, asking for something neither of us could pretend was practical anymore. "Tell me what you're asking," I said. Her brow creased. "I just did." "No. You asked whether it would feel the same. That turns me into a measurement device." Her face flushed. "That's not what I meant." "I know. So say what you mean." She breathed in, then, quietly, "I want to kiss you again." "Why?" "I don't know." "Not good enough." Her eyes flashed. "You don't get to demand a complete sexual identity statement because I asked to kiss you." "I didn't." "Then what are you asking for?" "Honesty. I am being honest." "You're curious." "Yes." "About yourself." "Yes." "And me?" That stopped her. I hated that it did. Josie looked away. "I don't know how to answer that." "Then don't kiss me." Her head turned back. There was hurt there now. And something sharper. "Do you want me?" The question was so direct I almost admired it. Instead, I said, "That's not the only question that matters." "But it's one of them." Yellow mug honesty, without the mug. I could have protected myself by denying it. I didn't. "Yes." Josie's lips parted. I continued before she could mistake the answer for permission. "I didn't know that before Wednesday." "Neither did I." "I know." "I thought you were off limits." Her words mirrored my own thinking so precisely that I almost laughed. "You're the straightest woman I know." "Apparently, I am experiencing technical difficulties." I did laugh then. So did she. It broke the pressure without removing it. She came one step closer. "Can I kiss you?" I should have made us wait. Maybe there was a wiser version of me somewhere who would have. I had never met her. "Yes." This kiss bore almost no resemblance to the first. Josie didn't approach me like she was taking instructions. She placed one hand lightly against my side and paused long enough for me to feel the question in it. I answered by closing the distance. Her mouth met mine. Slowly at first, then with a certainty that made my knees feel unreliable. There was no technique to evaluate, no imaginary future date, no reason for either of us to continue except that we wanted to. I touched her face. Her fingers curled into the fabric at my waist. She kissed me again and again, and the intimacy came less from intensity than recognition. This was Josie, the woman who knew my mother called me every Sunday at exactly 9, and that I never answered unknown numbers. The woman who had seen me furious, sick, heartbroken, arrogant, frightened, and embarrassingly drunk on sangria. Kissing a stranger gave you mystery. Kissing your best friend gave you context. Every small reaction belonged to a person I already knew. That made it devastating. When we finally separated, Josie rested her forehead against mine. That was not the same. No. Okay. I closed my eyes. Stop saying okay like it means anything. I don't currently have better vocabulary. Veterinary school failed you. Completely. She laughed softly. Then her forehead left mine. Reality returned almost visibly. She took a step back. Then another. I let her. "Mira?" "Yeah." "What happens now?" I looked at her. "I don't know." That seemed to frighten her more than the kiss. Josie was accustomed to my certainty, not because I possessed more of it than anyone else, but because I had spent years letting her borrow mine. Bad boyfriend? I knew what I thought. Job offer? I knew what questions she should ask. Family argument? I could usually separate what she felt guilty about from what she had actually done wrong. This time, I was inside the problem. I don't know what I am, she said. You don't have to. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Really? Really. I've been reading things. Of course you have. Her mouth twitched. Don't mock me. I'm not. You've just spent 3 weeks treating sexuality like continuing education. I made a private note. I stared. What kind of note? Nothing. Josie. It's just questions. How many? 17. I laughed. She looked offended. Some are sub-questions. Naturally. It's complicated. Yes. She leaned against the counter. I've been attracted to men. That's real. Yes. I don't want to rewrite my entire life into some story where I was secretly lying to myself. You don't have to. But this is also real. The way she said this made me quiet. She gestured once between us. Right? I answered carefully. For me, yes. For me too. Relief crossed her face. That should have comforted me. Instead, it frightened me. Because wanting me and understanding what wanting me meant for her life were different things. I had dated questioning women before. Not often. Once was enough to learn that someone's confusion could be sincere and still hurt me. Josie saw my expression. What? I need you to understand something. Okay? You can take as much time as you need with labels. Bisexual, queer, questioning, none of them. I genuinely don't care what word you use. She listened. But I can't be your experiment. Her face tightened. I don't think you are. You kissed me because you wanted to know what it felt like. The first time. And tonight? I wanted you. Tonight. She flinched. I hated causing it. I also knew I had to keep going. If tomorrow you panic and decide you want to pretend this didn't happen, I won't punish you. I won't out you. I won't tell anyone. I won't demand that you figure yourself out faster. Thank you. But I won't keep kissing you while you decide whether wanting me is something you can live with. She looked down. I softened my voice. I can be patient with uncertainty. I can't volunteer to be the part of the process you test and then put away. I would never put you away. You might not mean to. That landed. Josie nodded once. After a while, she said, I need to think. I know. Are you angry? No. Scared? I smiled without amusement. Extremely. That surprised her. You? I know. Ruins the brand. She laughed weakly. Then she left. For 4 days, we barely spoke. It was the longest silence we'd had in 6 years that wasn't caused by travel or illness. On Sunday afternoon, she called. I answered before the second ring. Hi. Hi. Neither of us knew how to talk. which was impressive considering our normal weekly word count could have supported a radio station. She asked about my weekend. I asked about hers. We discussed nothing important for 12 minutes. Then Josie said, "I told my therapist." I paused. "You have a therapist?" "Since August." "You've been withholding useful character information." I was waiting for a dramatic reveal. "Apparently," she laughed. "I told her about you." "How did that go?" "She annoyingly refused to assign me a sexuality." "Unprofessional." "Right?" I smiled. Then she said, "She asked why I was trying so hard to figure out what category I belonged in before asking what I actually wanted." That struck close enough to hurt. "What did you say?" "Nothing useful." "Sounds expensive." "Very." We talked another half hour. Nothing was solved. That became our pattern for 2 weeks. We spoke. We saw each other. We did not kiss. The absence of kissing turned out to be more intimate than kissing had been. Every time Josie sat close to me, the fact that neither of us crossed the space became its own form of conversation. She read. She went to therapy. She had dinner with her cousin Marissa, who had been openly bisexual since her 20s, and apparently told Josie, "If you ask me whether you've qualified for membership one more time, I'm charging you." I approved of Marissa immediately. Josie asked her whether attraction to men invalidated attraction to a woman. Marissa told her no. Whether never having wanted another woman invalidated wanting me. No. Whether she had to choose a label. No. Whether being uncertain made her dishonest. Also no. I was glad Josie had someone else. That mattered. I didn't want to become both the person she desired and the instructor responsible for explaining the desire. Meanwhile, I was doing my own, less organized thinking. I went out with Erin one more time. She was lovely. That made ending things harder. Over dinner, she asked whether I was emotionally available. Not accusingly, almost casually. I could have given her a polished answer. Instead, maybe because Josie's 17-question document had infected me, I told the truth. Less than I thought. Erin considered me. "Is there somebody else?" "Sort of." "That's a dangerous answer." "She's my best friend." Erin's eyebrows rose. "Ah. That bad?" "No, just efficient." "Meaning?" "I can compete with a stranger. I'm not auditioning against 6 years of inside jokes." I laughed, then apologized. She waved it off. "You like her?" "I think I do." "How romantic." "It's deeply inconvenient." "Those aren't mutually exclusive." I almost choked. It was the sentence I'd said to Josie the night we met. I went home annoyed by coincidence. At my apartment, I found the yellow mug beside the sink and stood there staring at it. The truth I'd been avoiding was more embarrassing than secret love. I had not loved Josie romantically for 6 years. But I had relied on her straightness to excuse myself from ever asking difficult questions. Was I drawn to her? Irrelevant. Straight. Did I compare dates to the comfort I felt with her? Irrelevant. Straight. Had some part of me become accustomed to being the first person she called, the person whose opinion mattered disproportionately, the woman already occupying emotional space most partners would eventually want? Irrelevant. Straight. Her identity had protected her from my assumptions. It had also protected me from risk. Now that protection was gone. 3 weeks after the second kiss, Josie came over for Wednesday dinner. We had started keeping Wednesdays again because apparently we could tolerate existential crisis, but not the collapse of our takeout schedule. She brought pasta. I opened wine. We argued about a documentary. At 9, she was curled into the corner of my couch, and for almost 10 minutes I forgot our relationship was complicated. Then she said, "Can I ask you something?" "Statistically, you will regardless." "Do you think we're dating?" I almost inhaled wine. "No." "Okay." "Do you?" "No." "Why do you sound disappointed?" "I don't." "You do." She set her glass down. "I don't know what we're doing." "Neither do I." "I don't like it." "Join the club." She sat straighter. "I think I want to try." My pulse jumped. "Try what?" "Us." There should have been uncomplicated joy in that moment. Instead, I heard one word. Try. Josie saw it happen. "Oh. That's exactly what I mean." "What?" "I don't want to be something you try." "That isn't how I meant it." "I know." She stood. Frustration sharpened her voice. "Mira, I cannot give you certainty I don't have." "I'm not asking for certainty." "You keep saying that, but every time I admit I'm still confused, you pull away." "Because I'm the person you're confused about." "No, you're not." "Then what are you confused about?" "Myself." I got up too. "Those aren't completely separable." "I know." "Do you?" "Stop interviewing me." The phrase landed because it was ours. I went quiet. Josie rubbed both hands through her hair. "I am trying so hard to be honest with you." "I know." "I don't know if bisexual is right. Sometimes it feels right. Sometimes queer feels better. Sometimes I think maybe I don't need any of it yet." "Fine." "But when I say I don't know, you hear that I don't know about you." "Because sometimes you don't." She recoiled. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" "No." "Then tell me what you know." "I know I want to kiss you." "That's not enough for me." Pain crossed her face. I wished I could take the sentence back. I didn't. She folded her arms tightly. "What do you want?" "I want to know whether you're willing to let this be real, outside this apartment." Her expression changed. There it was, the fear I had been trying not to name for her. I continued quietly. "Not tomorrow, not with a public announcement, but eventually." "Mira, you asked what I need." "I know. If we date, I don't want to become somebody you privately want and publicly explain away." "I wouldn't do that." "You don't know yet." "Neither do you." "I know myself well enough to know it would destroy me." She stared at the floor. After a long time, she said, "I don't know what I am." And because I was scared, because I was tired, because I'd been waiting 3 weeks for that uncertainty to stop touching me, I heard something she hadn't said. I heard, "I don't know whether this relationship counts." I heard, "I don't know whether you are worth the complication." I heard every bad possibility at once. Josie lifted her eyes. "Can we just go back to normal for a little while?" That was the rupture. Not shouting, not betrayal, not cruelty. 6 words from someone I loved in too many ways. I felt strangely calm. "No." She blinked. "No? We can't." "I mean, until I know what you mean." "Mira, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either. Then why are you saying no? Because normal isn't available. Her eyes filled, and that nearly broke me. I kept my voice steady. We kissed, twice. We talked about dating. We both know we're attracted to each other. I can't go back to sitting with you every Wednesday while pretending none of that exists, just so you can think without consequences. I'm not asking you to pretend. You are. She looked wounded. I moved closer but didn't touch her. You have every right to need time. She nodded faintly. And I have the right not to spend that time acting like your almost girlfriend. Her mouth trembled into an unhappy smile. Almost girlfriend sounds terrible. It is terrible. A tear slipped down her cheek. I hated everything about that moment. I need some distance, I said. How much? I don't know. Are you ending our friendship? No. The answer came immediately. No, I'm protecting it, I think. Or trying to protect myself inside it. She wiped her face. What if distance makes it worse? It might. Great. I don't have a better answer. She nodded. At the door, she stopped. I meant it when I said I wanted us. I swallowed the impulse to accept half a promise, because it came from her. I believe you. But I think you need to know what wanting us asks of you. She left. For 28 days, we did not have Wednesday dinner. I knew the exact number, because pretending I wasn't counting would have been insulting to both of us. We weren't completely silent. She sent me a picture when the hospital parrot finally said something besides Gary. I congratulated him. I texted when I saw a recall notice for her brand of space heater. She responded with a thumbs up, and then, 2 minutes later, I miss you. I typed, I miss you too. We left it there. I worked, I saw friends, I went to my sister's birthday dinner and stayed too late. I accepted a research project that required 3 days in Chicago because getting out of my apartment seemed useful. I bought another mug, not intentionally symbolic. The old one was chipped. I put the new mug in the cabinet and kept the yellow one. On the 3rd week, Erin texted to ask whether I had solved my best friend crisis. I replied, no. She sent, very inefficient. I laughed. I also realized I no longer wanted to date anyone else. Not because Josie had become my destiny. Because I finally understood I needed to finish experiencing what had happened before asking another person to stand beside it. The separation hurt. It also corrected something in me. I had spent the first weeks assuming all emotional responsibility belonged to Josie because her identity was changing. Mine wasn't. That was convenient. But I had changes to make too. I had to accept that being certain about my sexuality did not make me emotionally braver. I had hidden behind categories. Josie had been off limits, which let me keep an intimacy I valued without ever confronting whether I wanted more. Now, I wanted more. Admitting that meant accepting she might not be able to give it. There was no clever system for that. No yellow mug. Just risk. On the 4th Wednesday, at 7:14, somebody knocked on my door. Josie had a key. The fact that she knocked told me who it was before I opened it. She stood in the hallway wearing a dark green coat, hair loose from the rain, holding a paper bag. Hi. Hi. I brought dinner. I glanced at the bag. Negotiation tactic? Possibly. What is it? Indian. I opened the door wider. You may enter. She stepped inside but didn't remove her coat. That told me this was not an attempt to quietly resume Wednesday. Good. Terrifying, but good. I put the food on the counter. Josie saw the yellow mug beside the sink. She picked it up. Still chipped. It survived. So far. She carried it to the table. We sat. Neither of us touched the food. She placed both hands around the mug. Yellow mug. My throat tightened. Okay. I still don't know exactly what label I'm going to use forever. I nodded. I've tried bisexual. I think it might fit. Queer sometimes fits better. Some days I don't feel like explaining myself at all. All allowed. I know. She smiled slightly. That took me a month to learn. Therapy worth the money? Annoyingly. I waited. She rubbed her thumb across the painted sunflower. I kept thinking you wanted me to come back with an answer about what I am. I probably acted like that. You did, a little. Sorry, but then I realized I was doing the same thing. Meaning? I kept treating identity like an exam. Like if I could just study enough, I'd earn the right answer, and then I'd be allowed to want you. My eyes stung. Josie continued. I don't have that answer. Okay. But I have other answers. I didn't move. I don't want you because kissing a woman was interesting, she said. I don't want to date you because I'm curious what dating women is like. I don't want a girlfriend in the abstract. She took a breath. I want you. My vision blurred. She gave a nervous laugh. I want your terrible opinions about restaurants. I want you diagnosing my body language when I haven't asked. I want Wednesday dinner. I want to complain when you steal my fries after saying you didn't want any. I want to take you somewhere nice and have it be a date instead of us joking that we've accidentally been married for 6 years. I laughed through tears. She did too. Then her voice became quieter. And I'm still scared. Me too. I don't know how my parents will react. Okay. I don't know whether I'll say bisexual or queer, or just tell people I'm dating Mira. Okay. I may be awkward. You will definitely be awkward. Thank you. Yellow mug. She smiled. I've spent 4 weeks trying to figure out whether uncertainty means I shouldn't do this. And I think certainty is fake. Strong opening. I'm serious. I know. I was certain I was straight because nothing in my life had made that certainty difficult. Then you did. Sorry. You're not. Not remotely. Her smile softened. I can't promise I'll never be confused again. I can promise I won't make you responsible for solving it. That was the sentence I needed. Not a label, not forever. Responsibility. Choice. I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers. Then ask me. Her eyebrows lifted. Ask you what? You came here with Indian food and a speech. Finish the job. She laughed, then squeezed my hand. Mira Langley, would you let me take you on an actual date? I pretended to consider it. Will there be a kissing evaluation? No. Spreadsheet? No. Practice? Her gaze held mine. Absolutely not. Then yes. She stood so quickly the chair scraped. I laughed. What are you doing? I thought we might. No! Her face fell. I pointed at the food. You made an entire speech while my naan got cold. We're eating first. She stared at me, then started laughing. That was the moment I knew we might actually survive. Our first date happened Saturday. It was terrible. Not objectively. The restaurant was lovely, the food was excellent. Josie wore a navy dress I'd seen approximately 15 times and somehow managed to look unfamiliar in it, because she had clearly spent an unreasonable amount of time deciding what to wear. I wore a blouse she once described as your job interview seduction shirt. She noticed immediately. Really? What? That shirt. You said it was flattering. I said it looked like you were applying to ruin someone's life professionally. Flattering. We sat across from each other and discovered we had no idea how to date. Normally, we shared appetizers without asking. That night, we both politely offered each other the last dumpling, until I finally said, "If we do this all evening, I will break up with you before dessert." We have been dating 19 minutes. Longest 19 minutes of my life. You were more relaxed when I asked you to kiss me for research purposes. Do not rewrite history. At one point, Josie tried to ask me a first date question. What was your first job? I stared at her. You helped me write the resignation email from my first job. I panicked. We know too much about each other. Fine. What's something I don't know? I thought. You don't know that I practice saying yes to this date in my bathroom. Her face softened. You did? Twice. That's adorable. Retracted. No. Permanently entered into evidence. I pointed at her. Your turn. She smiled. I changed outfits 4 times. I knew that. How? You sent me nothing between 5 and 6. That's usually wardrobe crisis. She groaned. We paid the bill, then spent 5 minutes arguing about whether alternating payments still applied now that dinner was officially romantic. Outside, the night was cool and clear. We walked 3 blocks without touching. That was absurd. This was a woman whose feet had been in my lap hundreds of times. Now our hands swung inches apart like nervous teenagers. Josie finally stopped. This is ridiculous. Correct. I've literally slept on your shoulder on public transportation. You drool. I did once. Twice. She held out her hand. Can I? I looked down at it, then at her. You don't have to ask every time. I know. Good. But I'm asking now. I took her hand. It felt strangely monumental. Not because we had never touched, because we were naming the touch. We walked another block. Near my apartment, Josie stopped beneath the awning of a closed cafe. Mira. Yeah? Can I kiss you? I smiled. Again with the asking. This one matters. I knew exactly what she meant. The first kiss had been practice. The second had been discovery. This was neither. There was no question waiting at the end, no assessment, no identity problem to solve. Just a date. My girlfriend, maybe. The word frightened and delighted me equally. Yes, I said. Josie kissed me. It was gentle, unhurried. I touched her waist, and she smiled against my mouth before kissing me once more. Nothing about it was technically different from dozens of kisses I'd had before. The meaning was different. When she pulled back, she looked pleased. Not relieved. Not confused. Pleased. Don't score it, she said. I wasn't going to. Liar. 9. She shoved me. I caught her hand. We laughed beneath the cafe awning until a man walking a terrier gave us a suspicious look. Dating Josie did not become easy merely because we had decided to do it. It became real. Those were different things. For the first month, we over-discussed everything. How often should we sleep at each other's apartments? Was Wednesday dinner still sacred, or technically just another date? Should she tell coworkers? Should I? When did we inform mutual friends without creating the impression we'd spent 6 years conducting a secret affair? The answer to that last question came accidentally when our friend Becca invited us to brunch. Josie arrived 5 minutes after me, leaned down, kissed my temple, and stole half my coffee. Becca stopped speaking mid-sentence. She stared at Josie, then me, then Josie again. No. Josie froze. I hid my smile. Becca pointed between us. No, absolutely not. What? Josie asked. How long? 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Officially. Becca put both hands over her face. I have known you both for 6 years. We know. I have defended your heterosexuality in arguments. Josie groaned. What arguments? None you need details about. I started laughing. Becca leaned across the table. Are you okay? The question was directed at Josie. I watched carefully. Months earlier, she might have stiffened. Instead, she nodded. Yeah. Like, okay? Josie glanced at me, then slipped her hand into mine on the table. Yeah, I'm dating Mira. No apology, no joke, no qualifier. My entire body went warm. Becca looked at our hands, then grinned. Well, that's incredibly inconvenient for everyone who's ever had to listen to you talk about each other. Our first small argument as a couple happened over laundry. Not sexuality, not fear. Laundry. Josie had a habit of leaving clean clothes in my dryer. I had a habit of needing the dryer. After the third time, I put everything in a basket and carried it to my bedroom. She came over, saw the basket, and said, "You could have folded them." I stared at her. She realized too late what she'd said. Would you like to try that sentence again? No. Good choice. I was joking. You were 60% joking. 40. Yellow mug? She laughed. Fine, 60. We argued for 7 minutes. Then she folded her own clothes. Later, she said, Was that our first domestic fight? No. Why? We don't live together. Administrative technicality. Important technicality. She kissed my cheek. Still feels domestic. It did. That frightened me less than I expected. About 2 months after our first real date, Josie stayed overnight after a long Saturday. We had been to dinner, walked home, watched half a movie. By then, kissing her had become familiar enough that I no longer analyzed every second of it. That night, though, there was a different tenderness between us. She was stretched beside me on the couch, one leg over mine, tracing absent circles along my wrist. The movie credits rolled unnoticed. Mira. I'm staying. You usually announce that after you've stolen my toothbrush. I mean staying. I turned toward her. Her meaning was clear. So was the question beneath it. Are you sure? Yes. You don't have to prove anything. I'm not. Good, she smiled. You've become very suspicious of educational experiences. Deeply. She leaned closer. This isn't one. I kissed her. Slowly. She touched my face, then my neck, then rested her hand at my waist. Nothing rushed. We had spent years knowing how the other person moved through ordinary space. Learning each other as partners felt like discovering a language hidden inside one we already spoke. We kissed on the couch until the room grew quiet around us. At some point, we moved to my bedroom. Clothes were abandoned gradually, between laughter and nervous pauses. Josie bumped her knee against the bed frame and whispered a word that made me laugh into her shoulder. "Don't ruin the moment," she complained. "You attacked furniture. It attacked me." I kissed her again. The humor faded into tenderness. We checked in with each other. We stopped when we wanted to stop, continued when we both wanted more. There was no lesson, no performance, no question about what the night meant. Only trust, desire, affection, and the startling comfort of being known. Later, beneath the sheets, Josie rested her head against my chest. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I have feedback." I groaned. "If you produce a scorecard, you're leaving." 10. I laughed so hard she had to move. "You're impossible." "You started the rating system." I explicitly refused one. She curled back against me. Yellow mug. Oh no. I'm happy. The simplicity of it almost broke me. I kissed the top of her head. Me too. We did not become a couple who floated permanently through candlelight. Josie still worked unpredictable shifts. I still disappeared into research projects and forgot to answer messages for 3 hours. She hated the way I stacked dishes beside the sink instead of putting them directly into the dishwasher. I hated that she opened every cabinet while cooking and closed none of them. She continued dating men in the historical sense that her past remained part of her. She never treated that history like evidence against us. Sometimes she called herself bisexual, sometimes queer. Sometimes, when people asked intrusive questions, she said, "I'm with Mira," and allowed them to survive without a taxonomy lesson. Her parents took time. Not because they rejected her, exactly, because surprise created clumsy conversations. Her mother asked whether this meant Lucas had been a mistake. Josie said no. Her father asked whether she was sure. Josie said, "I'm sure about Mira." When she told me, I had to sit down. That was brave. It was exhausting. Also brave. She shrugged, embarrassed. I finally understood that I don't need to prove my entire identity before I'm allowed to tell the truth about my relationship. I took her hand. "And what truth is that?" She rolled her eyes. "Fishing for compliments now?" "Constantly." "You're my girlfriend." I smiled. She smiled back. "Still weird?" "Extremely." "Good." 6 months after the first lesson, Wednesday dinner remained Wednesday dinner. That surprised me. I had assumed romance would transform our rituals into something more cinematic. Instead, we still ate takeout, still argued over television, still rated terrible dates our friends described to us, though Josie had proposed retiring our old 5-point scale now that neither of us was contributing new material. One rainy evening, I opened the cabinet and discovered the yellow mug was gone. "Josie!" she called from the couch. "What?" "Where's the mug?" "What mug?" I appeared in the living room. She was visibly guilty. "The mug?" "Oh, what did you do?" "Technically, gravity did it," You broke the yellow mug? I was washing it. You never wash anything here. I wash things. Name 3. She started laughing. I'm sorry. I stood with my hands on my hips. This is 6 years of emotional infrastructure. I know. Relationships have ended because of that mug. Possibly because the relationships were bad. Unsupported speculation. Josie got up. Come here. No. Mira. You destroyed truth. She kissed me. I resisted for approximately 1 second. Then she pulled something from behind her back. A new mug. Bright yellow. No sunflower. Instead, in terrible hand-painted lettering, it said, "No practice." I stared at it, then at her. You made this? At one of those pottery painting places. You went without me? It was for you. It looks terrible. I know. The lettering is crooked. I know. This is emotionally manipulative. Probably. I took the mug. She watched me carefully. Yellow mug, she said. I raised an eyebrow. You can't invoke a replacement before it's ratified. Fine. Ratify it. I held the ugly thing between us. Done. She touched the rim with one finger. Yellow mug. I smiled. Go ahead. She stepped closer. That first night, when I asked you to teach me how to kiss, I really did think that was all I was asking. I know. I didn't secretly know I liked women. I know. I wasn't waiting for permission. I know. I was embarrassed because my ex got inside my head, and I trusted you, and then I kissed you. Twice. Pedant. Continue. She smiled. And then I had to learn that one surprising feeling didn't erase everything I'd felt before. It just meant my life was bigger than the story I'd already written about it. My throat tightened. She continued. I spent so much time asking what wanting you made me that I almost forgot to ask the simpler question. Which was, whether I wanted a life with you. I swallowed. And? She took the mug from my hands and set it carefully on the table. I do. I smiled. No score? No score. No practice? Her arms went around my waist. Never again. I kissed her. By then, kissing Josie was no longer surprising. That might have been my favorite part. Surprise had started us. Ordinary life kept us. She still called me after impossible days at the clinic. I still sent her screenshots of badly designed interfaces with furious commentary she pretended to understand. We still knew each other's coffee orders, still carried each other's spare keys, still annoyed each other with the accuracy of people who had collected 6 years of evidence. The friendship had not survived romance by remaining unchanged. It had survived because we stopped demanding that it remain unchanged. I had spent years believing emotional safety came from knowing which category a person belonged in. Available, unavailable. Friend, girlfriend. Certain, questioning. It turned out people were less tidy than that. Josie had not become someone else in order to love me. She had simply learned something true about herself that her previous life had never required her to know. And I had learned something equally uncomfortable. Being certain about who I was did not mean I was certain about what I wanted. Sometimes certainty was just a boundary drawn before the difficult question appeared. 1 year after that ridiculous first lesson, Josie arrived for Wednesday dinner carrying Thai food. She kicked off her boots, stole my drink, opened 3 cabinets and closed none of them. I followed behind her, shutting each one. She placed the new yellow mug on the table. I pointed at it. "What happened?" "Nothing." "You only bring that out when you're about to emotionally inconvenience me." "That's not true." "Yellow mug." She sighed. "Fine. I have a question." I narrowed my eyes. "Absolutely not." She laughed. "You don't know the question." "The last time you said that, my entire life became administratively complicated." She came around the table and kissed me. Not as practice, not as proof, not to find out what it meant, just because she could. When she pulled back, she smiled. "My question was whether you wanted noodles." I considered her. "Yellow mug?" "Yellow mug."
"Yes." "Great." She handed me the bag. And because she was still Josie, because I was still me, because love had not replaced the friendship, but grown directly through the middle of it, we spent the next 10 minutes arguing about who had forgotten to order dumplings. Sometimes the person who knows you best can still surprise you. And sometimes the bigger surprise is discovering that love doesn't always arrive as a stranger. Sometimes it has your spare key, knows exactly how you take your coffee, remembers every terrible date you've ever been on, and once asked you a completely ridiculous question beneath fluorescent kitchen lights. The question was never what category Josie belonged in. It was whether, when the safe answer stopped working, we were brave enough to tell each other the truth. We were, eventually. And we never needed the lesson again.